We are officially in the endgame of Marvel's WandaVision, as episode 6 brings an end to the series' second act. I've been a little bit slack on coverage of this show, but from here on out, I will be doing ending explained videos, assuming this one does well, because things are getting juicier and juicier. Before we get into this, don't forget to hit that like button down below. It does wonders in getting my content out there. Or should I say, it does wonders in getting my content out there. Also, let me know in the comments below if you are excited for WandaVision. Let's get into this. First off, I'm not going to be doing an Easter eggs breakdown, but simply focusing on what this episode and its super duper cliffhanger of an ending means for the remainder of the season. It should thus go without saying that this video is going to include some pretty major spoilers for this episode, so if you haven't watched it yet, I would suggest not watching this video. Click out of it, come back to it later. That said, as this episode takes us into the 1990s and early 2000s, can we please just appreciate that out of all the insanely good sitcoms of the era, this show chose to take enormous inspiration from cult favourite Malcolm in the Middle. However random this does seem, I do think that it is a pretty apt metaphor for this show, as this episode truly focuses on the psychological effects of those in the town who are quite clearly feeling trapped by Wanda's spell. For those unfamiliar with Malcolm in the Middle, this was a show about a young boy genius who quite literally feels trapped within his dysfunctional household of imbecile relatives. Episodes would focus on Malcolm's eternal struggle to fit in and his desire to move away from his family. Look, I could be reaching here and maybe the creators just like the aesthetics of Malcolm, but hey, what is just a coincidence when it comes to the MCU? This episode certainly isn't afraid to dig deep into the psyche of the show's characters. Whether that's the inquisitive struggle of Vision, who's continually fighting to figure out who he is and what he's doing in Westview, or the existential crisis that Wanda is going through. Should she be doing this? How is she doing this? As Wanda continues to question her own motives, it seems what we assume is her spell is starting to wear thin. There's glitches, there's people freezing, and others seemingly becoming more aware of what's going on. It particularly seems that those who are not in the immediate vicinity of Wanda are in some kind of standby mode. It's also worth noting that Wanda and her kids are seemingly making no effort to conceal their powers in front of others anymore, leading us to believe that maybe everyone has been aware the whole time. Of course though, Wanda is also seemingly growing more and more curious, lending credence to the idea that maybe she isn't fully in control. Of course, we've established that she can't control her children, who act of their own accord, and now she's even questioning the appearance of Pietro, asking questions like, "How are you back?" and "Why do you look different?" If not for these brief moments of clarity, I would absolutely buy into the idea that Wanda is the true villain or antagonist of this series, something we're obviously being led to believe. Though only 2/3 of the way into this show, I feel like that's far too simple. Of course, a major theory suggests that Agnes's true identity is Agatha Harkness, a powerful witch whose origins lie within the 17th century Salem witch trials. Of course, in this Halloween-themed episode, Agnes is dressed as a witch, and as she's briefly broken from her spell by Vision, representing her true self, she begins maniacally laughing after suggesting that everyone in the town might, in fact, be dead, just like Vision. Now there's something I've never considered before, the possibility that everyone in the town is actually dead. We already know that Vision is quite literally a walking corpse, and it's inferred that Pietro is as well. It seems at Wanda's greatest moments of weakness, the entire facade begins to fall apart. If she heads towards a manic breakdown and the entire town turns out to be the living dead, could this be our pathway to Marvel zombies? I really doubt it. There are lots of signs pointing to death here though. The series is starting to take a really weird, darkly twisted turn, and it's particularly strange to see that the show's commercials are growing more and more twisted, including this episode's one of a young boy trapped on an island, desperately trying to save himself before he perishes. There is every possibility, of course, that Agnes, or the big bad Mephisto himself, are behind an even more sinister plan that only Wanda is totally aware of, and is trying to hide this truth from everyone in the only way she knows how, leading to a double-edged sword of becoming a villain for the sake of saving everyone. Again, this could explain away why she seems to be having such an existential crisis over what she's doing, and why she's questioning certain things that are happening. The episode ends with Vision attempting to escape the boundaries of Westview, though he begins to disintegrate as he does. If we assume that everyone takes on a strange persona in the town, we can assume that once they leave, they become their true selves. And we know that Vision's true self is, well, dead. Wanda is of course alerted to this and begins to extend the boundaries, transforming the exterior landscape and everyone outside, creating even more pawns in her game. The only ones seemingly left outside are a small crew of SWORD agents, including Director Hayward. What happens now is absolutely up in the air, with very few left on the outside to help infiltrate the town. It seems like saving the inhabitants is almost a lost cause. However, we do know that Vision has the ability to revert people back to their previous unhexed states, assuming he's still alive, which we obviously know that he is. Well, kinda. The power of unlocking the town could be in his hands, but then again, we're still very unsure of what Agnes has up her cloak. Another thing worth mentioning is Monica Rambeau's changing molecular structure, with her cells being rewritten from exposure to the town's energy. This is something that absolutely plays into her comic origins, with the Marvel Wiki noting that the character gained superpowers after being bombarded by extra-dimensional energy. She would first take on the title of Captain Marvel, then Photon, then Spectrum. Something tells me that Rambeau is definitely headed for her superheroic turn, perhaps facing off against Wanda in the latter part of the series. We know that she's set for the next Captain Marvel movie as well, so maybe these are just threads waiting to be picked up somewhere down the line, drawing some really cool ties between Captain Marvel and WandaVision. Once again showing how important this series actually might be to the remainder of the MCU going forward. I'm still very curious about Pietro's role here though. With obviously very little answered here, we still have no idea if the presence of Evan Peters from the X-Men films being recast as Aaron Taylor-Johnson's Quicksilver in the MCU is our window to the Fox franchise multiverse, or if it's simply just a nod and a wink to the fans. Knowing Marvel, I wouldn't be surprised if it was either. No matter the case though, again, it's almost seemingly clear that this character is dead. Me personally, I find this to be a show that just throws you in a loop every 10 minutes. Once you think you have it figured out, the show proves that you are wrong. But right now, these are just my predictions for where the show's headed. I'm looking forward to next week, and if this video does perform well, I will be back with another one then. Until then though, I want to know, what are your theories for WandaVision, particularly going into the third act of the series? What's going on right here? I want to know what you're thinking. Fire away with all those down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Hey everyone, if you haven't yet, smash that big old subscribe button up on your screen to keep up to date with all my content, and hit that like button down below. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon for as little as $1 a month for exclusive videos, early access content, and to get your name up on the screen. Thanks again for watching.